got quite a good question there, John, from Miroslav. So
Okay.
when I lived in Edinburgh, I visited both the S&WS, and I am used to combining whiskey with food, but for many Polish colleagues, it is a profanation of whiskey. Can it ever be changed?
I think Miroslav, certainly things are changing here and have been changing for almost a generation of 20 years or so. And I know that in some parts of the world there is still a view that whiskey is kind of sacrosanct and should be drunk as whiskey and not mixed up with anything else like beer or food. So I think that's gradually changing, Miroslav. And as your Polish friends travel to other countries over time, they will probably start to pick up the fact that, there's a whole host of ways now to enjoy whiskey. It's not like it used to be. Certainly not here anymore.
Mm.
My my father would be astonished at the idea that we're pairing whiskey with food and that we're actually spending time talking about 5 different whiskies and the flavours. For him, it was just whiskey. Whiskey and a beer.
Mm.
You know, I don't think he particularly cared that much which whiskey it was. And that was a generation before mine, so you tell by my age how my father was, but so that was a long time ago, but things have been changing very, very definitely over the last generation or so.
I think as well, it's one of these things where it is a perception, but also I think whiskey is a thing that, you're meant to have fun with it, and especially with society whiskey, and that's one of the reasons we started doing the food pairings, and it was kind of an added on thing that we did as part of the tastings, but it's really taken off, and it's actually quite fun to sit down now once a month and come up with these pairings and think about what works, because I think it just gets your brain engaged and a bit more active. And it's not to say that you couldn't do that without the food pairings, but with the food pairings, I think sometimes you uncover flavors from the cask that you might never have found otherwise. And it really is just about having a bit of curiosity and a bit of fun with it. And that comes at both ends of the spectrum. So, you have I was saying in a previous tasting, what I do is I get a whole bunch of snacks and I sit down with the drams and I try different things with different drams, and that's what works for me. But then you go to the likes of one of our venues like at Queen Street, and you have, you know, a menu that's paired with whiskey, where it's kind of been thought through, and it's nearly a fine dining experience, and it elevates it, and it's a different way, and there's different subtleties that will come out with that. But I think both are equally valid and should be tried. I think the most important thing is to just have fun with it and try it, because if you don't try it, you'll never know.
I think these days, and probably particularly in the younger and middle generations, there is what I refer to as a culture of connoisseurship, and people don't just want to experience different flavours. They want to know, why is that flavour different
Mm.
from that other whiskey. They want to look into the reasons why these flavours are created. Because of what I said earlier about science, I mean, the answers aren't always there. But at the society, we can give you a clue from what we know about the processes and the geography and all that kind of thing about why whiskies taste differently. But people want to enjoy it, and it's not just whiskey.
Mm.
It's other drinks as well. So, people want to understand where the flavours come from and why they're different. And that's completely different from how it used to be.
And it's the spirit of the society. We are the original game changer, and we will always continue to be. So maybe that's your job, Miroslav, is to be the game changer and the introducer of food and whiskey.
I'll give you an example how things change. I mean, many years ago, Pip Hills, our founder, before Unfiltered, our members magazine, there used to be a newsletter for members. And in the newsletter, Pip used to answer letters from members. So I have a newsletter up there way back to the late 80s. And he was asked by a member a question, and he said, "Dear Mr. McCallum from Stirling, thank you for your question as to why we don't bottle single grain whiskey. The reason we don't bottle single grain whiskey, Miss McCallum, is exactly the same reason that we don't bottle bleach." Now, how things have changed. When Pip's reminded of that these days, he's like, no, no. But that's just how attitudes have changed. And for some people, single grain is the new single malt, So things are always changing. There's nothing about flavour that's hard and fast and can't develop over time.
Oh, for sure. And I actually had a single grain as the first whiskey that my husband and I enjoyed from our quaich at our wedding.
Is that right?
So
Okay.
yeah,
Very good.
it was a